In their heyday, the Osmonds were everywhere. The four eldest brothers, Alan, Wayne, Merrill, and Jay, started as a barber hop quartet of clean-cut kids from Utah, discovered on the Andy Williams Show in the 1960s. They became a pop sensation, joined later by Donny, who sent crowds into a frenzy, and little Jimmy, who scored a #1 hit at just 9 years old. And of course, Marie made her mark as the teen singing Paper Roses. The Osmonds sold over 100 million records and practically had their own kingdom in showbiz. But what goes up must come down. And by the early 80s, the teeny bopper craze had moved on, leaving the Osmonds to reinvent themselves. That's where our story really gets interesting. We're about to follow each Osmond sibling's journey after the screaming fans and glittering costumes. How did they handle life beyond teen idol fame? What personal battles did they fight? And where did they find happiness? From health scares to comebacks, from family tragedies to new careers, the Osmonds have been through it all. And guess what? It's now 2025, and most of them are still here, living full lives in their 60s and 70s. We even have some breaking updates, including one of the brothers is passing just recently, that left the family and fans heartbroken. We'll talk about that and so much more. To understand where the Osmonds are now, we need to rewind to the end of their superstar era. By the late 1970s, the Osmond family's meteoric rise had begun to level off. The brothers' clean-cut pop was falling out of fashion amid disco and rock, and Donny and Marie's TV variety show, as beloved as it was, eventually signed off in 1979. The once ubiquitous Osmond brothers found themselves at a crossroads. They had been working non-stop since childhood. Imagine waking up one day to find your teen idol stardom isn't guaranteed anymore. That's exactly what happened. In the early 1980s, the Osmonds faced a problem: how to transition from teen idols to adult entertainers in a changing industry. They had experienced massive success. Sold-out concerts, gold records, dolls, and lunchboxes with their faces on them. And now they had to figure out the next chapter. Financially, there were bumps too. The family had invested heavily in their own studio and projects in Utah during the boom. And when the hits slowed down, money got tight. By some reports, they even flirted with bankruptcy at one point, forcing them to scale back their showbiz empire. It was a humbling reality check. On a personal level, each sibling felt the end of Osmania differently. Donny struggled with being labeled a has-been in his 20s. One day he was on magazine covers, the next he couldn't get radio play. Marie, after her solo hits, grappled with the pressures of Hollywood expectations on a young woman. The older brothers, Alan, Wayne, Merrill, and Jay, had devoted their youth to the group. Some of them started families and wondered if it was time to settle into a normal life, away from tour buses and screaming fans. And little Jimmy. He had to figure out life as a teenager once the novelty of being the kid star wore off. In short, the big question looming over the Osmonds was, what now? How do you follow up being part of one of the most famous families in entertainment? This was the problem phase of their journey, the transition from the peak of fame into something more sustainable and meaningful for adulthood. It wasn't easy. There were setbacks, disappointments, and for some very serious personal challenges ahead. But not to spoil anything, the Osmonds are nothing if not resilient. Each sibling went on an exploration to redefine themselves beyond the glossy image we all knew. Number 7. Alan Osmond. Alan Osmond was the eldest of the performing Osmond brothers, essentially the guy in charge when they were kids. On stage, Alan was often in the back playing guitar or piano, letting his younger brothers take the spotlight. But make no mistake, he was the band's backbone, co-writing many songs with Merrill and choreographing their dance moves. Alan served in the Army National Guard during the Vietnam era, and that discipline carried into how he led his brothers in showbiz. By the 1980s, as the Osmonds' pop fame waned, Alan took on more of a behind-the-scenes role. He was producing shows, and in 1980, he even co-created the huge stadium event Stadium of Fire in Utah, which became a famous annual 4th of July show. But Alan's biggest battle had nothing to do with show business. In 1987, at just 38 years old, Alan was diagnosed with primary progressive multiple sclerosis, AMS. It was a crushing diagnosis. MS is an incurable disease that attacks the central nervous system, and the primary progressive form tends to steadily worsen over time. Doctors told Alan he might soon be confined to a wheelchair. For a while, he did have to use a wheelchair or braces when symptoms flared. But Alan faced MS with incredible positivity and faith. In classic Osmond fashion, he even came up with a personal motto: "I may have MS, but MS does not have me." He experimented with alternative therapies, diet changes, vitamins, essential oils, and kept as active as possible, defying those gloomy prognoses. Over 35 years later, Alan is still walking with some help when needed and thriving with MS. He once quipped that the letters MS in his case stood for making something out of life. Alan stepped out of performing regularly by the 1990s to focus on health and family. He and his wife Suzanne have 8 sons. Yes, 8. So, he basically raised his own football team. But he didn't abandon music completely. In fact, Alan made what he called his final performance with his brothers in 2018 in Hawaii. He was nearly 69 then. He even showed up for a surprise family sing-along at Marie's 60th birthday in 2019. MS and all, because that's the kind of big brother he is. These days, Alan is in his mid-70s and mostly enjoys life out of the spotlight in Utah. And here's a very recent update. In September 2024, Alan fulfilled a long-time dream by publishing his autobiography, fittingly titled One-Way Ticket. In it, he shares his life story and the lessons learned from showbiz and battling MS. It's proof that Alan Osmond, the once silent leader of the Osmond brothers, still has plenty to say. He's an example of resilience, turning a frightening diagnosis into an opportunity to inspire others. Alan's journey shows that sometimes the quiet ones end up the true heroes. Number 6. Wayne Osmond. Next up is Wayne Osmond. Born in 1951, the second oldest of the original 4 Osmond brothers, Wayne was often the utility player of the group. He played lead guitar, sang baritone harmonies, and even wrote songs. Fun fact, Wayne co-wrote the Osmonds' rock anthem, Crazy Horses, showing he wasn't just the mild-mannered one. He had a wild side on stage, too. Offstage, Wayne was known as the gentle, funny one with a heart of gold. After the group's heyday, Wayne's life took some dramatic turns, especially health-wise. Remember, we mentioned Wayne's health battles. They were serious. In 1997, Wayne was diagnosed with a brain tumor, which was a huge scare. He underwent surgery, and thankfully the tumor was removed. But the ordeal left its mark. Wayne lost nearly all of his hearing from the treatment. Imagine a musician and singer who's relied on his ears his whole life, suddenly dealing with profound hearing loss. It says a lot about Wayne's character that he continued to perform even after that, relying on feeling the vibrations and muscle memory for music. He was not giving up easily. Wayne's challenges weren't over. In 2012, he suffered a stroke that affected his ability to play guitar and weakened one side of his body that forced Wayne to finally retire from performing actively. A tough blow for someone who had been an entertainer since age 6. But through all this, Wayne remained, as his brothers described, the ultimate optimist. He had an unfailing positive attitude, cracking jokes and counting blessings no matter what life threw at him. His brother Donny said, "Wayne brought so much light, laughter, and love to everyone. He was loved by everyone." And indeed, Wayne found tremendous joy in his personal life. He married Kathy White, a former Miss Utah pageant queen way back in 1974, and together they raised 5 children. Wayne absolutely doted on his kids and grandkids. In Osmond family gatherings, he'd be the guy playing with the little ones, probably cracking corny dad jokes and making everyone laugh. In his later years, Wayne and Kathy settled into a quieter life between Utah and a ranch in Idaho. But the family bond stayed strong. The Osmond siblings are famously tight-knit. In late 2024, as Wayne was turning 73, the family got together knowing Wayne's health was fragile after years of battles. In fact, Marie felt a strong prompting to go visit Wayne at his home for a long heart-to-heart talk, which she did in December 2024. It was a blessed visit because not long after, on January 1st, 2025, Wayne Osmond passed away at age 73. He died peacefully in Utah after suffering another massive stroke. The news hit the Osmond family and fans hard. Wayne was the first of the performing siblings to leave us. Marie broke her social media silence to pay tribute to her loving brother, saying, "His death left a giant hole in my heart." Brothers Merrill and Jay described Wayne as a man with no guile, full of humility and faith. Truly the family's gentle anchor. While it's a sad chapter that Wayne is gone, his legacy of courage and kindness lives on. His life showed that even when fate dealt harsh blows, you can face it with grace, faith, and humor. And in the end, Wayne was surrounded by what mattered most: family. Number 5. Mel Osmond. Time to talk about Mel Osmond, the guy with that powerhouse voice that led so many Osmonds hits. If Donny was the teen idol face of the group, Merrill was its sound. He's the one belting the lead on songs like One Bad Apple, Crazy Horses, and Love Me for a Reason. In fact, Merrill was either lead or co-lead singer on almost all the Osmonds' 1970s songs. He had a soulful, rocking voice that could also blend beautifully with his brother's harmonies. When Donny's voice changed, or he went solo, Merrill seamlessly took over more vocals. He even sported a cool beard in the late 70s and helped steer the family into country music in the 1980s. Yep, the Osmond brothers had a surprise second act as country artists, charting a few songs in the 80s. Bet you didn't know that. Merrill was front and center in that transition. By the late 1990s and 2000s, the performing Osmonds essentially boiled down to the Osmond Brothers Quartet again. Merrill, Wayne, Jay, and sometimes Jimmy. They performed at venues like Branson, Missouri, doing nostalgia shows for longtime fans. Merrill also explored solo projects here and there, including recording some gospel and country music on his own. But perhaps Merrill's biggest role became being an ambassador for the family's legacy. He always took time to meet fans, share stories, and keep the Osmond spirit alive. After literally 6 decades on stage, he started singing publicly at age 5. Merrill decided it was time to ease into retirement. In 2022, at age 69, Mel Osmond announced he would step back from live performances. He did a farewell tour of the UK, where Osmania was huge back in the day, and played his final international show in England in January 2023. Imagine the emotions of that night. Merrill on stage, likely with Jay by his side, singing Crazy Horses or Let Me, and one last time to cheering British fans who grew up with the Osmonds. It had to be special. Merrill's final U.S. show had taken place a bit earlier in April 2022 near his 69th birthday. At that concert, he probably joked that he'd been performing for 60 years and needed a nap. Just guessing, he has a good sense of humor. Even after retirement, Merrill can't fully quit music. He's done a few limited engagements each year since. Benefit concerts, guest appearances, things that matter to him. In fact, as of mid-2025, he even has a couple of shows scheduled, proving you can't keep a born entertainer down for long. However, Merrill is definitely enjoying more family time now. He was the first Osmond brother to get married. He wed Mary Carlson in 1973, beating Donny by a whole decade. Merrill and Mary raised 6 kids together, and he's now a grandpa many times over. One of his sons, Justin, was born deaf. The Osmonds carry a gene for hearing loss that affected the oldest Osmond brothers, Merrill and Tom, as well as Merrill's son. That inspired Merrill to become an advocate for the hearing impaired. He's done charity work to provide hearing aids and support to children with hearing loss, which is beautiful coming full circle. Remember, the Osmond brothers originally began singing to raise money for their 2 deaf older brothers' hearing aids. Merrill's journey has been about heart. He poured his heart into music, into his family, and into helping others. And for those wondering if the Osmond legacy will carry on, yes, one of Alan's sons, Nathan Osmond, is a country singer who has filled in for Merrill at some events. It's like passing the torch to a new generation. But nobody can truly replace Merrill's voice. When he opens his mouth to sing, you instantly feel that Osmond magic. At 72 years old, as of 2025, Merrill is in semi-retirement, living quietly in Utah. But he remains the proud keeper of the Osmond brothers' flame. After all, he spent a lifetime being the voice of an era, and his legacy is literally music to our ears. The Osmond brothers performing together on their 50th anniversary tour in 2008. Merrill with his bass guitar, and Jay kept the Osmond music alive on stage well into their later years. Number 4. Jay Osmond. Let's turn to Jay Osmond, the baby of the original Four Brothers Quartet. Not to be confused with actual baby brother Jimmy. Jay was the drummer and something of the comic spark of the group. Always full of energy. He started performing at age 2, folks. If you've seen old Osmond's footage, Jay's the one grinning behind the drum kit, doing spins, or stepping out front for the hard rock tune, Crazy Horses, where he handled lead vocals with a gritty growl. He was often called the most athletic Osmond, known to incorporate kung fu moves and backflips on stage. Fun fact, Elvis Presley himself suggested the Osmond brothers wear jumpsuits and learn karate. And Jay took that to heart. When Donny went solo in the late 70s and Alan and Wayne eventually retired from performing, Jay and Merrill kept the Osmond brothers act going. They toured as a duo in the 2010s, built as the Osmonds, sometimes adding Jimmy for special shows. Jay has always loved performing, but as he got older, another talent emerged: storytelling. Jay realized he had a treasure trove of behind-the-scenes stories from the family's extraordinary journey. So, what did he do? He wrote a musical about it. Yes, Jay Osmond wrote and produced The Osmonds, a new musical, which premiered in the UK in 2022. It's a stage musical that tells the Osmond family story through Jay's eyes, featuring all their hits and the real-life drama behind the music. It's basically the Osmonds' Jersey Boy-style bio-musical. And by all accounts, it's a blast for fans, full of nostalgia and revelations of what really went on when the spotlight turned off. Jay and his wife Karen actually moved to England for a few years to get this musical up and running. Talk about dedication. The show toured all over the UK and Ireland to sold-out crowds of both old fans and younger theatergoers who got hooked on the story. Imagine watching actors play young Alan, Wayne, Merrill, Jay, Donny, Marie, and Jimmy, with Jay Osmond himself in the audience reliving his life story on stage. Jay said it was surreal, but healing. He wrote it from the heart, showing both the triumphs and the challenges his family faced. The musical closed its UK run in late 2022. And here's the exciting part. In early 2023, Jay announced that the Osmonds musical is coming to the US and even other countries. Plans were set for a US tour in 2024 and possibly further international productions in 2025. So, Jay's work is far from over. He's ensuring the Osmond legacy sings on through theater. In 2023, after accomplishing the UK run, Jay, now in his late 60s, moved back home to the States, specifically to the scenic cowboy state Wyoming. Why Wyoming? Possibly for some peace and quiet. Jay's a nature lover and has mentioned he always wanted to live somewhere with open land. He's earned that serenity. Jay is also active online and with fans. He'll pop up on Facebook or fan events to chat and share memories. Health-wise, Jay has been pretty fortunate compared to some of his siblings. No major issues have been public, and he's kept in great shape. Maybe all that drumming was a good cardio workout. As of 2025, Jay Osmond is essentially the family historian and creative chronicler. He wrote a candid autobiography called Stages a while back, and now the musical. He said that seeing his life portrayed on stage, especially the moments with his late parents, was deeply emotional. He even included a spiritual touch like a butterfly representing his mom's presence during a key scene. It shows how much love and respect Jay has for the family that started it all. So what's next for him? Possibly more writing, maybe producing a film or TV adaptation of the Osmond story. Wouldn't that be cool? One thing's for sure, Jay's enthusiasm is infectious. He's a grandfather now, and I can totally picture him bouncing his grandkids on his knee while a vintage Osmonds record plays in the background, tapping out the beat with that ever-present grin. Jay's life has been about finding the fun in everything, and now he's preserving the family's fun and faith for future generations. Not bad for the kid who once only got one drumstick for Christmas. True story. They could only afford one drumstick when he was little. He had to bang that single stick on anything he could. Number 3. Donny Osmond. All right, take a deep breath, because Donny Osmond's chapter is a wild ride on its own. Donny was, and is, the most famous of the Osmonds, the teen idol who set hearts aflutter across the globe. In the early 70s, his face was on every magazine. Fans fainted at his concerts, and he gave the Jackson 5 a run for their money on the charts. But Donny's life didn't stay in the rosy glow of Tiger Beat covers forever. He experienced the highest highs of fame and the harsh crash when that fame inevitably cooled. What's remarkable is how Donny reinvented himself not once, not twice, but multiple times over the decades. He is the comeback king of the family. When the original Osmania subsided, Donny found himself typecast as that squeaky clean kid from Utah. In the 80s, the music industry wasn't kind to ex-teen stars. Donny struggled to get radio play. Some stations literally wouldn't touch his new music because his name was uncool. It was a frustrating period, but here comes comeback number 1. In 1989, Donny scored a surprise top 10 hit with Soldier of Love, a catchy pop song that most listeners didn't even realize was him at first. His label released it to radio without his name attached, and DJs played it thinking it was a hot new artist. Sneaky. Suddenly, Donny had a new group of fans on MTV who had no idea he was the same guy who sang Puppy Love. That resurrected his recording career and gave him street cred as a contemporary artist again. Fast forward to the late 90s, and Donny pulls off comeback number 2, musical theater. He landed the lead role in Andrew Lloyd Webber's Joseph and the amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat in the early 90s, and absolutely crushed it for 6 years straight. Over 2,000 performances. Donny's dynamic stage presence and perhaps the famous loincloth costume brought in sellout crowds and great reviews. He became a legit stage star, which helped shed any lingering cheesy image from the past. He even briefly considered returning to Joseph in recent years, this time as the Pharaoh. Talk about full circle. Then came the 2000s, and guess what? Comeback number 3. Donny and Marie reunite for an 11-year Las Vegas residency that was the hottest ticket in town. From 2008 to 2019, the brother-sister duo performed at the Flamingo in Las Vegas, doing a mix of music, comedy, and dance that appealed to nostalgia seekers and new fans alike. It was a smash. Over 9 million tickets sold over the run. Critics scoffed initially, but Donny and Marie showed Vegas how it's done, winning awards for Best Show and cementing themselves as Vegas entertainment icons. But wait, Donny wasn't done yet. Enter comeback number 4, Donny Osmond, solo Vegas residency. After Donny and Marie ended their run, amicably they just wanted to pursue other projects. Donny launched his first ever solo residency at Harrah's Las Vegas in 2021. Many wondered if he could fill a showroom alone. Well, he not only filled it, he extended the residency multiple times due to demand. As of late 2024, Donny was in the 4th year of this acclaimed solo show, performing 5 nights a week and giving audiences a spectacular crash course in his 60-year career. Everything from his Andy Williams show debut at age 5 to his boy band years, from Broadway to TV, and even a rap segment summarizing his life. Yes, Donny raps about his life story in the show. He said he packed 60 years and 90 minutes on that stage. The show has been a huge success, winning awards, and Donny has made it clear he's not ready to retire anytime soon. He isn't ready to close the door on his career just yet. One article noted emphatically, In his mid-60s, Donny still sings with power, dances with energy, and charms audiences nightly. If anything, he's having the time of his life now, performing entirely on his own terms. Donny also managed to squeeze in winning Dancing with the Stars in 2009. Oh yes, he brought home the Mirror Ball trophy in Season 9, beating out his sister Marie's previous run on the show. At 51, he became the oldest winner in DWTS history at the time, joking, "I beat Marie," while proudly holding the trophy. Marie had famously competed 2 seasons earlier. Not long after, Donny co-hosted a TV game show, released new albums, including 2021's Start Again, which hit #1 on UK charts for easy listening, and even appeared as the Peacock on the first season of The Masked Singer in 2019, coming in second place and delighting a new generation of viewers who were stunned when the flamboyant peacock costume came off. And it was Donny Osmond underneath. Donny loves to poke fun at himself too. He said things like, "Been around so long, I'm almost cool again." Perhaps the sweetest part of Donny's story is his personal life. He married his wife Debbie in 1978, and they've been together ever since, raising 5 sons and now enjoying a gaggle of grandchildren. Despite all the glitz of his career, Donny will tell you his greatest joy is family. He's also been open about his mental health, sharing that he dealt with severe anxiety in the late 90s, to the point of having panic attacks on stage. With professional help and the support of his family and faith, he overcame that too. Donny attributes a lot of his resilience to his beliefs and to just plain not giving up. When people ask him if he'll retire, he laughs and says he's doing what he loves, so why stop? If you're wondering what Donny's up to right now, picture this. Tonight, if it's a weekday in 2025, he's likely on stage in Las Vegas, a spotlight shining on that familiar smile, taking a multi-generational audience on a journey through his life story. He might be serenading a lucky fan with Puppy Love one minute, then belting out "I'll Make a Man Out of You" from Disney's Mulan the next. Yep, that's Donny's voice in the movie. And when the show ends, he's probably hopping on Instagram or TikTok. Yes, he's active on those to connect with fans, proving that at 65 plus, he's as much a showman as ever. Number 2. Marie Osmond. Now, let's shine the light on Marie Osmond, the only sister in the Osmond performing clan and a star in her own right. Marie's story is one of resilience, compassion, and constant reinvention. She truly has a heart of gold. As the baby girl of the family, Marie grew up surrounded by brothers and was thrust into the limelight at a young age. At just 13, she scored a #1 country hit with Paper Roses, instantly distinguishing herself from her brothers with a solo career in country music. No small feat to have a teen girl top the country charts in 1973. A few years later, she was co-hosting the network TV variety show Donny and Marie at age 16, charming America every week with her talent and witty banter. Remember their goofy, "I'm a little bit country, I'm a little bit rock and roll" tick classic? Marie became an icon for young women. She was talented, beautiful, and poised, but also incredibly relatable and down-to-earth. Yet behind that sparkling smile, Marie faced some tough battles. As we discussed earlier, during the Donny and Marie show years, she silently endured sexism and abuse from certain producers who body-shamed and belittled her. The pressure to maintain a perfect image led to an eating disorder and anxiety that Marie kept hidden. Fast forward to adulthood, and Marie weathered personal tragedies that would knock anyone off their feet. She went through a divorce in the 1980s that was tabloid fodder, then a second marriage that ended in 2007 amid difficulties. She was raising 8 children, yes, 8, several of whom she adopted, and juggling a career which alone is superwoman territory. Then the unimaginable. In 2010, her son Michael, who had battled depression, ended his life. Marie was devastated. In interviews much later, she said there's no greater pain than losing a child, and that it's something you never truly get over. Understandably, she stepped out of the spotlight for a bit to grieve and support her family. But Marie is someone who turns pain into purpose. She became a vocal advocate for suicide prevention and mental health, speaking openly about her own experiences. She often says, "It's okay to say, I'm not okay," encouraging others to reach out for help, just as she learned to do. Marie had previously been a trailblazer in discussing postpartum depression, with her 2001 book, Behind the Smile, detailing her severe postpartum after one of her children's births. By sharing these stories, Marie helped countless others feel less alone in their struggles. It's one of her greatest legacies beyond entertainment. Career-wise, Marie also kept reinventing. In the 80s and 90s, she recorded more country hits. Remember Meet Me in Montana? A beautiful #1 duet she did in 1985. She starred on Broadway in The King and I and The Sound of Music. She launched successful businesses. Marie has had doll lines, quilting products, a skincare line, you name it. And of course, she joined Donny for that long Vegas residency from 2008 to 2019, where she brought the house down with songs like Paper Roses and even Opera Aras, The Girl's Got Range. Marie became a fan favorite on Dancing with the Stars in 2007. She made it to the finals, and who can forget when she famously fainted on live TV after one of her routines? Ever the pro, she laughed it off and kept going. In recent years, Marie branched into daytime TV, becoming a host on The Talk for a season in 2019 to 2020. But she left that to refocus on family and other projects, a move she was very happy with. One such project was her 2021 album Unexpected, which showcased her love of opera and Broadway tunes, hitting #1 on Billboard's classical chart. Talk about unexpected. Marie can sing Puccini as well as she croons country. She also continues to tour solo, occasionally doing symphony concerts, where she sings everything from Nessorma to country roads. Reviews often mention that Marie, now in her 60s, sounds better than ever. On the personal front, one of the most heartwarming second chances in Marie's life is love. In 2011, she remarried her first husband, Stephen Craig, after 26 years apart. It's a real-life romance novel. They had divorced in 1985, lived separate lives for decades, and found their way back to each other. Marie says Steve was always her true love. They chose a very meaningful date to tie the knot again, May 4th, 2011, because it was the birthday of both her late son, Michael, and her late mother, Olive. In Marie's words, they picked that date to symbolically have them with us in spirit when we remarried. Isn't that beautiful? As of 2025, Marie and Steve just celebrated their 12th anniversary, or 40th if you count from the first time, and she calls him the love of my life. You can tell she's in a good place emotionally, surrounded by kids and grandkids, feeling fulfilled. These days, Marie keeps plenty busy with charity work as well. She co-founded the Children's Miracle Network Hospitals in 1983 and remains passionately involved. That organization has raised billions for kids' hospitals. She's often on the road giving motivational speeches or performing at fundraisers, and she does it all with that signature humor and warmth. Meet Marie and she'll likely crack a self-deprecating joke within 30 seconds, often about being the only girl in a family of guys. Through every trial, divorce, loss, public scrutiny, Marie's faith and optimism have been her guide. She says she chooses to find joy and focus on the good because the margins of life are filled with challenges for everyone. But it's how you frame them that matters. One thing's for sure, Marie Osmond's frame is full of light. #1, Jimmy Osmond. Last, but certainly not least, let's talk about Jimmy Osmond. Lil Jimmy, as he was often called, is the youngest of the Osmond siblings. Born in 1963, a full decade younger than Donny and 14 years younger than Alan. Being the baby of the family, Jimmy had a unique journey because he pretty much grew up in the public eye from birth. He holds a Guinness World Record. In fact, Jimmy Osmond is the youngest person to have a #1 hit in the UK. He was only 9 years old when his song Long-Haired Lover from Liverpool hit #1 on the British charts at Christmas time 1972. That song is an earworm if you've never heard it. And yes, it's as adorably cheesy as the title suggests, which is why Brits loved it. To this day, no one younger has ever topped the UK charts. So, Jimmy still holds that record. As a kid, Jimmy was the cute, cheeky one trotted out on variety shows to sing and make people go AW. But he had real talent and ambition beyond that. In his teens and 20s, when the Osmond brothers were performing less in the US, Jimmy actually carved out a big career overseas. He learned to speak fluent Japanese and had hit records in Japan. Seriously, he recorded songs in Japanese and was quite popular there. He also did a lot of musical theater in the UK and toured in shows like Joseph and the amazing Technicolor Dream Coat, following big brother Donny's footsteps and a 70s jukebox musical called Boogie Nights. In addition, Jimmy became a businessman. He produced TV specials for networks like ABC, PBS, and the BBC. If you ever watched the Osmond family Christmas specials in the 80s or that Osmond 50th anniversary reunion concert on PBS in 2007, Jimmy was often the producer behind those projects. He had a knack for the behind-the-scenes side of entertainment, which might surprise people who only remember him as the little kid singing with a lollipop. Jimmy's life took a serious turn in the 2000s regarding health. We mentioned he suffered a stroke at the end of 2018, a scary event that effectively ended his public performing career. What many didn't know until recently is that it was actually Jimmy's second stroke. His first occurred back in 2004, when he was just 41 due to a congenital heart defect that doctors were able to correct with surgery. He recovered from that one and kept it pretty private, continuing to work and perform. But the 2018 stroke was more severe. It happened on stage during a performance of Peter Pan in Birmingham, England. He was playing Captain Hook and powered through the show despite feeling unwell. After the curtain, he was rushed to the hospital. The stroke left Jimmy with vision and physical impairments that required a long recovery. In April 2019, a few months after the stroke, Jimmy made a brief public statement that he was doing well and taking a long overdue break from show business. And truly since then, Jimmy has stayed almost entirely out of the spotlight, focusing on his health, therapy, and family. He's the only Osmond sibling who isn't active on social media or doing interviews as of 2025. His brothers have occasionally given updates saying Jimmy is happy and enjoys hearing from fans, but is not looking to re-enter public life. One bright spot: Jimmy became a grandfather in recent years, which he's over the moon about. He and his wife Michelle have 4 children of their own and now grandkids to spoil. Before his stroke, Jimmy was running the Andy Williams Performing Arts Center in Branson, Missouri. He had purchased the theater from the estate of singer Andy Williams, a dear family friend who gave the Osmonds their start and was producing shows there. That theater sadly closed in 2022 while Jimmy was still recovering. But think about that full circle. Jimmy's first TV appearance was on the Andy Williams Show as a toddler, and decades later, he was literally carrying on Andy's legacy at a theater. It shows how connected the Osmonds are to showbiz history. These days, Jimmy is happily retired and focusing on simply living. Reports say he's doing art. He always loved drawing and painting, enjoying nature, and spending lots of quality time with his family. After a lifetime of hustle and entertaining, he's earned this peaceful chapter. When his brother Wayne passed away in early 2025, Jimmy did not appear publicly, but one can imagine that hit him hard. They were very close, and Jimmy looked up to his older brothers immensely. The family likely gathered in private with Jimmy there to celebrate Wayne's life. If there's one thing to know about Jimmy Osmond, it's that he has a resilient spirit and a kind soul. Fans still leave supportive messages saying, "We miss you, get well." And his siblings have said he appreciates all the love and hasn't lost his sense of humor. He might not be in the limelight anymore, but he's very much present in the hearts of Osmond fans. Jimmy's journey from child star to businessman to health survivor encapsulates the unpredictable ride that life can be. And through it all, he's remained the sweet, positive person he's always been. In interviews long ago, Jimmy used to say he never felt jealousy or competition. He just loved being part of the family act. That humility and gratitude have carried him through tough times. So, Here's to Jimmy Osmond, living life quietly but richly. His story might not have the showy encore of Donny's, but it's an inspiring one of finding contentment after the curtain falls.